So, Jeremy, thank you very much for bringing us a subject which is also very important, and is the situation in Myanmar. You brought us James Rodhaver. I think I don't need to introduce James. We've had the pleasure to hear him several times. He's the head of the Myanmar team of OHCHR, and he's speaking from Bangkok. You want to start, and then we go to James?
Yes, thanks, Alessandra. Yes, James will come on afterwards and take your questions. This morning, our office published a report on Myanmar detailing the worsening human rights crisis, particularly in Rakhine State. The report provides a stark reminder of the atrocities committed by the military in 2017, pointing to increased killings, torture, and the razing of villages. Since the escalation of hostilities in Rakhine, hundreds of thousands more people have been displaced. The United Nations estimates some 150,000 Rohingya have fled to Bangladesh since November 2023, joining nearly 1 million already taking refuge there. The military and the Arakan army have acted with near complete impunity, enabling the recurrence of violations in an endless cycle of suffering for the civilian population. Videos and pictures show death, destruction, and desperation, distressingly similar to images that we already saw during the 2017 atrocities committed by the military against the Rohingya. In light of the ongoing violations of international law and the prevailing impunity, the High Commissioner reiterates his previous calls for a full referral of the Myanmar situation to the International Criminal Court by the Security Council. The report, which covers the 14 months up until the 31st of May this year, also examines in detail 4 incidents involving grave violations, including the targeting of civilian homes, villages, schools and camps for displaced people throughout Myanmar. In one of the incidents, on the 12th of May this year, an airstrike hit a school, killing 24 civilians, including 16 girls and 6 boys, as well as 2 female teachers. According to one witness, all 4 classrooms were destroyed except the roof of the last room. Analysis of pictures and videos received by the UN Human Rights Office corroborated witness accounts. Sources indicate that the military has regularly targeted public administration sites, including schools, with the effect of instilling fear in the public. There was already an established pattern of over 640 instances of military attacks against schools since 2021. Despite calls by the United Nations and the Association of Southeast Asian Nations for the de-escalation of violence, the attacks on civilians continue in violation of international human rights and humanitarian law. The report says that even after declaring a unilateral ceasefire following the earthquake in 2025, the military reportedly launched over 550 attacks and killed over 480 people, on top of the nearly 4,000 deaths from the earthquake itself. At the same time, food security continues to rise, linked to the armed conflict, economic instability, and natural disasters. In 2025, an estimated 15.2 million people, nearly a third of the country's population, were projected to face high levels of acute food insecurity, a sharp increase from the 13.3 million in 2024. Humanitarian funding is urgently required to meet the needs, and we implore member states to act to hold the parties to their obligations to allow help to reach those in need, and to support the international efforts to hold those responsible for violations of international law to account. Thank you.
Thank you very much, James. Okay, now you're on.
Yeah, thank you. No, I think that the statement, I think, speaks very well to the content of this report, and the situation in Myanmar, of course, is always getting worse. I would just say that since the time in which this report was written, the situation has continued to worsen. It's not just a question of airstrikes and the continuing use of heavier and heavier munitions in the conduct of airstrikes, but it's also now the growth of ground operations throughout the country by the military, designed specifically to consolidate its control or to expand its control in strategic areas prior to elections that were announced to start in late December this year. So the situation is not good, and particularly in Rakhine State, it is extremely bad, as the report details. I would just say that one of the things that the press statement does not highlight is, of course, the ongoing restrictions imposed in the country, especially regarding communications restrictions, make verification of the details of some incidents extremely difficult. And so we have noted in the report that there are times in which those restrictions, as well as the financial restrictions that my team and I are now under, it makes it very difficult to verify data to a legal standard in some instances. And we've noted that very clearly in the report. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, James, and thanks here to Jeremy. Let me open the floor to questions first in the room, if any. Don't see any hand up. So Christian Ulrich, German news agency.
Thank you very much, Alessandra. Just to get the figures right, how many Rohingya are there in total, or how many are actually left in Myanmar? Maybe you can shed light on that, Jeremy. Thank you.
Jeremy or James, maybe. James, you can take this one.
Sure. I would say that the estimate has always been that following the exodus in 2017, there were around 200,000 Rohingya still left in communities throughout Rakhine State. But since the fighting renewed in November of 2023, those numbers have dwindled significantly. Probably as much as a third of those Rohingya still remaining in Rakhine State have now fled abroad or to other locations inside the country. So right now, of course, I don't think anyone knows for certain how many are there, but my guess would be close to 400,000 are still left.
Thank you. Nick Bruce, New York Times.
Thank you for taking my question. A rather political question, I'm afraid, James, but we've seen the US withdrawal of sanctions against individuals. We've seen Chinese pressure on arms supplies to resistance groups, and one sees kind of escalating military activity in quite a large area. I mean, a few months ago, we saw reports that essentially the government was losing control of more and more territory, and I'm just wondering if that has changed now and you're seeing the government successfully reoccupying areas it's lost, and whether its offensives are penetrating resistance, the ethnic armed groups' territories and their areas of control. Thank you.
James.
I think you can see that the military has clearly gained momentum. The tactics that they have used, particularly since the earthquake, of launching persistent airstrikes, artillery barrages, and following it up with troop deployments on the ground to really press their advantage against armed groups that they know are hurting, either because of the earthquake, because of the restrictions on humanitarian assistance, and of course, the dwindling humanitarian assistance and international assistance available more broadly, and plus these areas of pressure that have been placed by some of the military's allies abroad to really try to press the need for these elections that the military has announced. It clearly has resulted in the military gaining momentum, both on the ground and I think politically. The military was given credit for some of the earthquake response, which, to all accounts from what I have seen, is not warranted, because it's very unclear whether, first of all, it's very clear that they were not involved in hardly any of the humanitarian response whatsoever. And then the money that was released to the military by certain states in the delivery of assistance, it's very unclear where that money has gone. I think that the military has utilized this political momentum to gain greater legitimacy, and you see the impact on the ground.
Thank you, James. Yes, Associated Press, Jamie Keaton.
Mr. Rodenhaver, thank you for coming to see us again. I just wanted to, one of the figures that came out in the press release was this, which I don't think was mentioned here, maybe I missed it, was this 7,100 figure of casualties, the toll that you verified from 2001 to 2025, if I understand correctly. Can you tell us a little bit about how exhaustive you think that figure is? Is that a full compendium? And do you think that the actual toll may be a lot higher? Thanks.
Yeah, I think that is without a doubt the floor of the number of fatalities, civilian fatalities, that has occurred in the conflict, and I think that that's for a variety of reasons. One, that the same communication restrictions that have made our work incredibly difficult, including in areas like Rakhine State, in Sagaing, where fighting has been incredibly intense. In the southeast of the country, where fighting has also been very intense. The figures coming back on fatalities in those areas are just absurdly small, particularly if you compare it in any way to the reported levels of casualties that we have gotten consistently from those areas that could not be verified. So that 7,100 figure, those are verified, meaning that those are numbers where the sources compiling that data can place a name to the death. They have been able to verify that down to the body. And so we know that those figures are incredibly reliable, but those figures are also casualties or fatalities caused directly by the military. That does not include civilians that have been killed by the armed groups, including civilian officials that work for the military, or people that have been accused of being informants for the military who were civilians. For a variety of reasons, that data has been incredibly difficult to verify or to account for. But the military places those figures in thousands. We have tried but have not been able to verify those statistics or find a credible way of estimating them. So I think that by any account, the figure of 7,100 is, I think it's helpful, but it is not in any way exhaustive or comprehensive.
Very clear. Other questions on Myanmar? I don't see any. James, thank you so much for coming back and brief our journalists. And please feel free to come anytime for updates.